Welcome everyone. Thank you all for attending our first virtual graduate and professional expo. My name is Julia. I am the CBR assistant in Careerspace at Trent University. Sorry, CBR is community-based research. Careerspace provides an authentic outlook on the career landscape by providing Trent students and alumni with meaningful experiences, necessary perspectives, and valuable resources. We offer virtual appointments, workshops, online resources, and opportunities to connect with employers and recruiters. These services are free for all Trent students and alumni. You can visit our website, trentu.ca/careerspace, to book an appointment or learn more about our services. We are thrilled to have a representative from the University of Medicine and Health Sciences with us here today. Before we go ahead and get started, I do have some housekeeping items to mention. So firstly, I will ask you, Corey, to just please go ahead now and place your contact information in the chat box for everybody. We should have 10 to 15 minutes at the end for questions and discussion following Corey's presentation. Please feel free to ask your questions at any time using the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. And as well, today's presentation will be posted to our Careerspace YouTube channel. Without further ado, I'd like to welcome our guest, Corey, from the University of Medicine and Health Sciences, and ask that you go ahead and introduce yourself. The floor is yours.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Julia. It is a pleasure to be here with y'all on Friday. I am actually sitting in my sunroom. I am taking a break from my home office upstairs, so that's why I have a bit of a living room backdrop today. But yes, I am Corey Helms. I am one of the associate admissions directors from the University of Medicine and Health Sciences. I am in what is today very sunny Metro Detroit, Michigan. So I'm not too terribly far away from you guys. I work with the students from the Midwest region, and I have recently started working with all the students from Canada. So I am so glad to be here. I have some exciting news to share as well with you guys as Trent students. This is really exciting, but our school, the University of Medicine and Health Sciences, has actually we signed an articulation agreement with Trent University again, which is wonderful. So what that means is essentially if you meet a certain standard of requirements, you will get an interview for our MD program at UMHS, and I should certainly say that's what we are, an MD program, and yes, we are a Caribbean program. I know, and you guys know, obviously, that Canadian MD programs are so insanely competitive. I mean, we are talking about an 18% acceptance rate. We're talking less than 4,000 students across Canada are going to Canadian medical schools every year. So it is really wise, to research and consider your options and really just put yourself out there as an applicant across the board. Caribbean schools, maybe US medical schools, Canadian schools, you really have to just keep your options open. So yeah, I'll share with you guys just a super brief introduction on our MD program at UMHS, and then obviously we'll open it up for whatever questions that y'all have. But yeah, so UMHS is actually a family-owned medical school. So I'm always excited and proud to be able to share that. We are not corporately owned, which is actually a wonderful thing for us because we are able to keep our tuition much lower because we are a family-owned school and we don't report to anyone else except for ourselves. So we have a really nice tuition price. So we're looking at Canadian about $230,000 for all 4 years, okay, from start to finish. So the island that we're located on would be the Caribbean island of St. Kitts, which is, I don't know if anyone's familiar with the Caribbean, but it is about a 45-minute flight south of Puerto Rico. It is a 3-hour flight south of Miami. And obviously it's a gorgeous flight. You're over the beautiful waters the entire time. St. Kitts is very unique in that half the island is on the Caribbean Sea. The other half of the island is on the Atlantic Ocean. What I love about St. Kitts, well, there's a lot of things I love about St. Kitts, but one really nice thing about St. Kitts is you are able to take your Delta flight take your American flight like straight, from, you obviously do a connection in Miami and then Miami to St. Kitts, or Atlanta and then Atlanta to St. Kitts. So you don't have to get on like this puddle jumper airplane and, be on this tiny little runway. So it feels, good in that regard. But yes, in regards to our basic sciences program, that would be the portion of our program that you complete on the island. So depending on your academics, depending on your GPA and your CV, and of course, if you have an MCAT score, we're going to take that into consideration when we review your file. And then obviously, in order to be reviewed, you do have to meet admissions requirements, and I can definitely share those with you guys, in an email if I get your emails today, because it's a long list. But yeah, we'll definitely potentially place you in a couple different entry points. So we have a 4-semester basic sciences program. We have a 5-semester basic sciences program, and then we actually offer an accelerated review program, which is 1 semester of like a really intensive, very fast-paced introduction to what our medical school curriculum is like. The idea is to condition you, to give you a preview, to get you ready for the rigors of medical school. So the review program is actually not straight acceptance into our MD program, but it is a seat, for 1 semester to review and to see how we fare. It has to be passed in order to be promoted onto the MD program, so the 4 or the 5 semesters. And then once you're done on the island with the basic sciences, we actually move our students to our campus in Portland, Maine. So you're back stateside in Portland, Maine for 1 semester, so a 16-week semester in Portland. And if I may back up and share with you all too, that 1 semester in the basic sciences is 15 weeks. And then there's 2 weeks off in between. So yeah, so you are in Portland, Maine for 16 weeks. And then you do Intro to Clinical Medicine 2. You have to take the U.S. board examination, USMLE Step 1. You also have to take Step 2, Clinical Skills, Clinical Knowledge. The U.S. boards are required. Canadian boards are optional. So yeah, a lot of our Canadian students obviously take the Canadian boards. Why wouldn't you? So you have to go through the Portland, Maine semester to get yourself ready for the first U.S. board exam, which is Step 1. You write Step 1, and then once you pass, you go into the clinical portion of the program. So the your third year, you're doing all of our core rotations in our affiliated hospitals. And then the 4th year, you do elective rotations in whatever hospitals you so choose. So the goal is to get yourself really kind of exposed in all the locations and to get into the specialties that you're hoping to match into and do those rotations. It's very much like a networking year. So yeah, in a nutshell, it's about 4 years, give or take. I see that that's one of the questions. I love that question. I will be honest, for some students, it's 3.5 years. For other students, it's 5 years. I mean, it just depends on you individually. Because think about it, like the first 2 years, right? Your basic sciences, when you're in St. Kitts and when you go to Portland, Maine, you're very much on our schedule. We're keeping you very structured. Now, once you write your USMLE Step 1, you schedule that exam yourself. That's kind of the standard. So not everyone's ready to take Step 1 on the same day at the same time, right? You guys are scheduling it on your own, and then you're entering into the clinical portion on your own as well. So some of our students are doing their rotations back to back to back to back. Others are choosing to move across the country and kind of experience various locations across the country. So they might have 2 weeks off or 3 weeks off in between each rotation. So the time frame is different. And I always just like to make the comment too, when you guys are reviewing match lists, which you obviously should, like matching is everything, right? Whether you're matching in the States or matching in Canada, that is your end all be all. You have to realize and keep in mind that not everyone is graduating together. So say you start medical school in September of 2021, let's just say hypothetically, you're not graduating with everyone in your class. Like everyone's graduating from medical school every single day. As soon as they finish that last elective rotation and they write that final examination, they're done, right? We send them their MD diploma in the mail, but then they have to go through obviously respective match programs. And that's a totally different thing like post-graduation. Another great question. I love this. So what type of financial aid would be offered and how do you choose recipients? So good question. We actually have scholarships. They are automatic. So what's really nice about the automatic scholarships is you don't have to go through this long and detailed application process, because let's be honest, when you are moving to the Caribbean from Canada, the last thing on your priority list of to-dos is to go through and apply for scholarships. You've got visa to get, flights to book, housing to figure out, right? So there's so much, vaccinations, there's so much on your to-do list. So we do the scholarships automatically. The most you can get off per semester would be, well, US dollars, $1,750, so $1,750. And then for Canadians, you guys, to fund our program, to pay for our program, you would do a line of credit, which is actually nice. You guys are lucky in that regard. The students from the States have to go through a private lender. We all funnel them through one private lender, but you guys as Canadians, you have the option to go get a line of credit at whatever bank you choose. TD Bank is a very popular option because they will give you enough. You kind of have to do your homework a little bit. Not all the banks will give you enough. So you might have to go through the process twice, but like TD is a good example of a bank that will give you enough to fund the entire program, obviously tuition and living as well. So good question. Am I missing anything else? If I want to begin medical school for the August 2022 term, when do I apply? Oh, I love it. So, okay, good question. These are all good questions. So we are actually rolling admissions. The terms that we have it would be January, May, and September. So we have rolling admissions, which literally means you can put your application in right now for any term in 2022, any term in 2021. That is the beauty of rolling admissions. We will work on the class until the class is full. We are very small. We only accept 150 students per class. So every January, every May, every September, the capacity is 150. So, I mean, you do, of course, run the risk of like waiting maybe too late and then the class is full. So if we accept you, we move you on obviously to the next semester. So, I mean, it's good to start, if you feel serious, if you feel interested, just to kind of get your feet wet a little bit with the application process. The letters of recommendation are very important. We do require a letter to come from a science professor. So it is good to maybe get that one letter in while you still have good relationship and face-to-face interaction with your professors, for sure. I have a question for teaching opportunities. So yeah, that's a great question. In regards to teaching, we absolutely have, I'll just give you the full answer because I'm not sure in what capacity. So I'm going to give you the full scope. So we have visiting professors that have absolutely come from various US medical schools, Canadian schools, undergrad schools to come visit UMHS and do have like teaching opportunities. So that's possible, of course. If you're a student and you want to teach and tutor, absolutely, there's a TA for every single class. So yeah, there's definitely opportunities for sure. And please feel free to email me if I didn't give you a good answer to that question. That was a good question, and I can definitely go in more detail. Do most medical schools in Canada or the Caribbean do rolling admissions? I don't think the Canadian schools do rolling admissions. So I think it's like the US schools where you have to be in the cycle, which unfortunately, it's you sometimes have to wait a year out before you can actually start. It's important to think about your time in the big picture. Like your time is so valuable. So it's hard to think about taking a year or 2 years off between undergrad and med school just because medical school is such a long journey. So that is something that's really nice about rolling admissions. But yes, all the Caribbean schools do rolling admissions. So it's not just UMHS, all the schools in the Caribbean are rolling. Good question. Acceptance rate. So actually, I love this. We don't post an acceptance rate per se, because we do place a lot of students into our accelerated review program, which is that one semester of kind of preview of the content. There's 13 courses that we introduce you to. So that is actually, like I mentioned earlier, that review program is not direct acceptance into med school. So we don't really publish an acceptance rate, because if we do deny you into our MD program, we will probably offer you a spot in our accelerated review program and give you the chance to prove yourself and, you know, get yourself academically conditioned for the rigors of med school. And then of course that review program has to be passed in order to move on to the basic sciences, again, either the 4 or the 5 semesters. The average GPA would be probably right now, for the 5 semester MD program, like a 3.2. So for you guys, what is that? 77% would be the average GPA. Yeah. Anything else? Oh, I thought I answered this question. I'm sorry. How long does it take most students to graduate? I apologize. It can be anywhere from 3.5 to 5 years, but the typical is 4. Thank you all. Those were good questions. Oh, there's another one. Okay, great. Opportunities for residency in Canada? Absolutely, absolutely. Canadian residency is very, very competitive. So a couple things I will say, and I'm not just saying this, our Canadian grads say it all the time. The US program, the US residency program, I feel like ends up being a bit more attractive even for the Canadians. Even when they start, they say, okay, I have to get back to Canada. There's no if, and, or but, like, you know, Canada's my home, my family's there. But I will say, you guys, and I'm being honest, the US residency program pays more. So that becomes a much more attractive thing for the Canadians. They end up wanting to stay in the States. But absolutely, we do have students that go back to Canada. But I would highly, highly, highly encourage, and so would Patrick McCormick, our clinical director, for you as a Canadian to apply for both US and Canada. You just have to be safe, and you can do it. The US students cannot do it. So you guys are getting a lot more opportunity to match if you do both, for sure. Good.
Those have been some great questions, and thank you so much, Corey, for your wonderful presentation.
Definitely.
We do have about like 7 or so more minutes for questions if there are any others from attendees. And I can also potentially, I have a list and I can see what we haven't covered, but you've done such a thorough job and the questions from attendees have been so great too.
Yeah. Oh, good. Thank you.
Well, I guess I can ask you, in terms of like faculty supervision, what does that look like? And do students typically work really closely with faculty, or is it like,
Yeah, that's such a good question. And I should have addressed that because it's such an important thing. We are not your typical, I would say, like expectation of what med school might be like, because, you know, typically you think of med school, your professors are doing research, you're in these lecture halls, you know, maybe it's systems-based curriculum, maybe it's subject-based curriculum. Regardless of that, you don't have a lot of contact with your professors because they are doing research. They have to do research. We are not like that at all. So that is one really great thing about being family owned. And we don't have to do all this research for grants, again, which is great. We absolutely do research because it's a wonderful thing and we offer it as an elective every single semester, but it's not required by anyone. It's not even required by our faculty. So they are required to hold office hours. There's an 8-to-1 ratio. So what's really great about that is you get to know them. The island is obviously very small. There's 56,000 or so residents on the island. And, you know, you're running into your professors at the grocery store. You're seeing them out at restaurants when you should, you know, the 4 hours that you're taking off for the week and you decide to go have dinner on Saturday, you know, afternoon or evening, you're seeing the professors. You just end up having a really good relationship with them. Dr. Prakash Mungli is so incredible. He's one of our professors that has a YouTube channel. He's our biochem prof. So maybe you guys can YouTube him, Google him, check him out. But he is so incredible. We have Dr. Matos, who is a practicing MD. He oversees our accelerated review program. And he also oversees our Med for You, which is similar to like Doctors Without Borders or like MedLife. It's kind of our version of those organizations. But we founded this organization at UMHS, and Dr. Matos takes a group of students that are obviously in Med for You, and they travel to different countries. Like they've been to Peru, they've been to Dominican Republic, and they serve, these disadvantaged folks that are just desperate, for healthcare. And it's such an inspiring thing, but it's great because our students get to work alongside of him because he is an MD and he is still licensed to practice. So, it's great. We have a good mix. We have some PhDs, and then we still have a lot of MDs on campus as well. So yeah, they're amazing. The office hours, like I said, are mandatory. So students, even though we're virtual right now with COVID, are still able to meet with your professors like this. And listen, if you fail an exam, if you fail an assignment, they are going to send you an email and say, I recommend, Patrick, Charlie, whoever, set up an appointment with me because, we cannot let you perform like this go forward. We need to figure out what happened. We need to course correct. So you're not going to get that everywhere. So if you like a big school, that's great, but we are not a big school at UMHS. You're going to know the professors, they're going to be contacting you, emailing you. So that's just our culture. Yeah. Good questions. Okay, there's 2 more on here. So if I do residency in the US, can I still write Canadian boards and end up practicing in Canada? Yes, absolutely. That's a good question. So yes, that's a great question. So you actually take USMLE Step 1 first, and then you do core rotations in the States. We do offer 1 core rotation, psychiatry, in Canada. It's in a hospital, Ontario Shores. Center for Mental Health. I don't know if that sounds familiar for you guys, but we have a psych core rotation there. But yeah, you absolutely can. That's a great question. So you actually would do Canadian boards during your 3rd year. So it's a little bit different. And the US boards are a lot more difficult than the Canadian boards, oddly enough. So all the Canadians say what's really great about USMLE is that it prepares you for the Canadian boards. So it's really good. And we do have a 100% pass rate on that first Canadian board, which is MCCQE Part 1, which you guys probably know about. Yes. Good. Anything else?
There was a question about your contact information, and I realized that when you had posted it, it only went to all panelists, which is you and me. So I've just reposted that. And someone said, oh, wow, Ontario Shores is in Durham. And that is correct. It's in Whitby, Ontario. I am coming from Curtis, which if anyone, it sounds like people know, Durham is really close. So yeah, that was all very helpful. Thank you so much. We do actually have a couple more minutes if there's any other questions, or Corey, if you have any kind of closing thoughts or things that might have come up from the questions.
Yeah, definitely. I think you guys, honestly, like the biggest thing I can leave you with today, if there are no more questions, but please email me, WhatsApp me, text me, anything that you guys need. I'm totally here to help, so don't hesitate. But I think it's really important to just do your research and do your homework. There's a lot of changes coming up in the future, like there is, and I don't want to confuse, but it's important for you guys to know there's this new accreditation ruling that's happening in 2024. So what that means is, you can't just come from any Caribbean medical school or any medical school from Europe, Ireland, anywhere. You can't just come over and write these board examinations in the States. And then because you're so competitive, meaning you do so well, you're very attractive to all these residency programs and now they want you. So that's how it is now. That's all changing in 2024. So you have to actually graduate from a Caribbean program or a program in Europe, wherever, that has like appropriate accreditation, meaning the accreditation follows the LCME, which is who accredits US medical school. So when I first started working for UMHS, I used to say all the time, it doesn't matter where you go to medical school. It really doesn't. You can go anywhere. Med school is med school. What matters is your US board score performance or your Canadian board score performance. That's what's going to get you a residency. But now I can't say that anymore. It does matter where you go to medical school. So you have to really know about accreditation more than ever. So that's probably, if you Google, or I don't know if you guys are like reading blogs and whatnot, but that's probably out there in the world. I don't know if it's good or bad or what the opinion is on that, but we obviously feel like it's really good because it's going to eliminate so many grads coming from schools that are not appropriately accredited. And UMHS is obviously, we have ACCM accreditation, and we're up for renewal 2021. So we feel fortunate. We always get the full like 7-year accreditation. So just the full 7 years happens to be up in 2021, but we are working on renewing it. We always will renew it. It's the most important thing outside of just having a good culture and good outcomes for our students. But our president, Warren Ross, again, who we used to own another Caribbean medical school, and we sold that school off in 2002, and we opened UMHS in 2008. He's been in Caribbean medical education for over 40 years. He comes to the island for every single orientation and meets our students face to face, throws them a welcome party on the Saturday before classes start, takes you guys out on a catamaran. It's so fun. It's so wonderful. He's so warm and welcoming and engaging, and he wants to get to know you guys. He's very interactive with SGA. SGA is a great thing to get involved with at UMHS. You have such a voice. If there's a piece of gym equipment that the students are wanting, or anything at all, something with the curriculum, you just present it to President Ross and he will do everything he can to make it happen. So, yeah.
Thank you so much for that, Corey. Just a reminder to everyone, I did post Corey's contact information in the chat, so you can get in touch with UMHS if you have any additional questions. Thank you so much, Corey, and to all of our students in attendance today for taking the time to learn about opportunities with the University of Medicine and Health Sciences. We invite you to attend our Trent-specific Graduate and Professional School Expo being held on November 13th from 9 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. To register, visit trentu.ca/SCP and click on the November 13th hold the date. As well, Careerspace, in partnership with Academic Skills, is presenting a virtual personal statement workshop on Tuesday, November 10th from 1 to 2 p.m. Save the date. It'll be posted on the Student Experience Portal's events calendar. You'll be able to register for the event from there. Most graduate school applications require a personal statement or letter of intent, and with the knowledge you gain from this workshop, you'll be able to create these documents and submit the best application that you can. So if either of those are of interest to you, definitely go ahead and check them out, November 10th and November 13th. Once again, thank you so much, Corey, and to everyone in attendance and for all your great questions. Yeah, thanks a lot, and have a great day, everybody.
Bye, guys. Thank y'all. Thank you, Julia. Have a good one.